Well, hello there and good day. Thank you so much for joining me at Dystopian Report, the place where we talk about the nightmare world we've all found ourselves living in. I'm your host, Jesse Pullman, and today is Monday, January 5th, 2026 at about 11:45 p.m. EST, so if you see this come out on Tuesday, I never said this was going to be a daily thing anyway. Today we're going to be talking about a concept I've been thinking over called law as permission. With our usual reminder that I'm not a lawyer, so maybe to some of you this is old hat and you should totally leave a comment once you finish this video. But at the very least, Googling law as permission doesn't turn up any relevant results to help guide my thinking. But before we go any further, every 5 episodes I like to thank you all for your attention up front and to remind you that if you're new here and you find this video helpful or thought-provoking in some way, you should subscribe to the channel. It's the number one way to help us grow. And leave a comment if you have a question. I will answer it. I just answered a question about alt tech in my previous video. Also, as always, I am human and fully capable of being wrong, so take what I say and think about it through your own personal lenses. With that said, let me dig in and read the results of me thinking to myself here. And having thought about it after the fact, we are going somewhere here, I promise. To begin with, what exactly is law? A quick glance to Wikipedia and you get this definition. Law is a set of rules that are created and enforceable by social or governmental institutions to regulate behavior, with its precise definition a matter of long-standing debate. Seeing as that wasn't especially helpful, Merriam-Webster defines law as a binding custom or practice of a community, a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. And it also adds as a secondary definition the whole body of such customs, practices, or rules. So laws are systems of rules, instructions, and guidelines that are established by authority figures. One way to think of it is similar to how a parent might grant permission for children to do certain things, like go out and play with their friends, but within limits such as having to be back before dark. And that's really the angle I want to talk about here. Law as permission. And it sounds a little circular at first, but just stick with me. As an American, my country's governmental system was established by a document called the Constitution, which was agreed to by most, if not all, of the people with power at the time. Note that I said with power, not the people without power, as an acceptable basis to form an overarching government. So the government derives its rights from that document that we all agreed, even if not all of us were really represented, was worth agreeing to. With me so far? Cool. Under that government, the legislative bodies, the House of Representatives and the Senate, create and pass laws. Within limits, these may be laws restricting personal freedoms, setting conditions upon freedoms such as taxation and other things, and granting freedoms such as judging that a given chemical substance is legal or not legal for human consumption. In other words, our laws say alcohol is legal while cannabis isn't, and I for one think that's bullshit. Our executive branch's job is to enforce those laws that Congress constructs through its power apparatus. The executive branch is the presidency, by the way. The DEA is part of the executive branch, for example, and while it doesn't regulate alcohol because that's not part of the law, it sure can arrest people with cannabis if they deem it worth their time. Because that's what the law says. The law gives us permission to drink alcohol under certain conditions, such as we are of age and we are not operating motor vehicles while under the influence, and there are other conditions and restrictions as well. Finally, we have a judicial branch, the Supreme and other courts that exist under the Constitution to, no pun intended, judge whether the laws passed by the legislature are in fact legal according to the Constitution. They also do other things, but that's a big one, and that's the one that's relevant to this discussion. There's also something to be said for how laws are applied and often misapplied to disfavored groups so as to create inequities in the law. Not all laws are created and or enforced equally. There's a quote about laws that bind out groups while permitting in-groups to do things and don't bind in-groups but bind out-groups. I don't know that quote off the top of my head, but I would suggest looking into that concept as well. But today, these days really, these last few days where I've been making videos every day, I'm just thinking about how laws are permission to do things. Like, I don't know. One aspect of the Constitution is that the legislature, the Congress, has the power to declare war. See, I'm starting to make a point here. That our Constitution allows Congress to essentially, but not exactly, pass a law that says we are at war with a foreign entity, and that this condition of war provides not just a permission structure, but a whole system of requirements for our executive branch to use armed force to resolve whatever possible conflict we have with that foreign entity. The executive branch most decidedly does not have this power. It is reserved to the Congress and the Congress alone. By the way, we do that because the Congress is the most directly responsible to the people, especially the House of Representatives. The president isn't even directly voted on by the people. It's voted on by the Electoral College. Consequently, in the absence of state of a declaration of war, did I say that right? I don't know. The presidency has only whatever other military permission Congress has granted to it previously to act upon. Now, the executive branch is notorious for a long time for taking these legal permissions that already exist to use force and stretching them to cover as many desired targets as possible. It's nothing new. They'll make arguments like, we bombed a country we aren't at war with because the terrorist network we are at war with set up a base there. Or we'll say something like, we didn't invade a country and kidnap their head of state and his wife. We apprehended criminal fugitives from justice. But ultimately, those stretches are often in extremely bad faith, with the known consequence that they would endanger American lives both at home and abroad. Starting a war with a foreign power is inherently dangerous to the people of the United States, to say nothing thus far of the foreigners who very might well be endangered or killed by our use of force, and they deserve something said of them. And when a bad enough faith stretch is made, isn't it incumbent upon the Congress to do more than just complain that things were not done appropriately, or that permission was stretched and should not be stretched again? Shouldn't Congress hold those who violated their permission structures, or to put it another simpler way, broke the law, accountable at the minimal cost of their jobs? What I'm getting at here is that in a situation where the executive branch is running about violating the law on a regular basis in such a way that it endangers Americans and kills, as of the last count, at least 80 foreigners, it should be held sternly accountable. It just so happens that the Constitution provided one and only one legal mechanism to ensure that those who are routinely violating Congress's permissions, again, the law, are removed from power and prohibited from practicing it further. That power is called impeachment. And not enough Democrats have called for it. In fact, I can think of just about one off the top of my head, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. I looked her name up. It's Kat Abu-Ghazali. She's the Democratic primary candidate for U.S. House District 9 in Illinois. And she's about the only Democrat I've seen call for impeachment that's actually running for something. I know some people will say, well, the Democrats don't have the numbers, so it's an empty threat. And besides the fact that giving up on the only legal mechanism to hold these people accountable is a tacit concession that you will do nothing about the law breaking, or maybe the matching fact that only illegal methods are left to remedy the law breaking, probably isn't a good thing. May I posit this to you? If you want to win office, you have to have an affirmative case to run on. I can think of a lot worse things than this guy is out here trying to be a dictator, starting illegal wars like a crazy fuck, and I've signed on to articles of impeachment that will launch when we win office in the next election. Or, I don't know. You can do nothing and see if that wins you any favor. See if that gets you any special permission. See if that keeps the presidency acting within the permission Congress gave it. Somehow, I doubt that's a winning strategy. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you appreciate this episode, like I said at the start, please do hit the like, share, subscribe, friend, follow, or whatever buttons. Really help the channel grow. It lets me know what you're watching so I can keep making more of it. I really appreciate it from the very bottom of my heart. I am on Blue Sky. You can find a link in the description along with a link to my website. We'll have updates about my books and all those fun things I do write, by the way. I'm a sci-fi fantasy author. I will have a book coming out this year. Right now we're calling it Locker's Rebellion. So maybe that'll be something you're interested in. It's not dystopian. It's noble bright, but it's going to be fun. Thank you all so much for joining me, and as always on this channel, pieces.